Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. As the dusk began to settle, I was arranging the Phalaenopsis orchids on the veranda when the heavy front gate buzzed and opened. My husband, Kendall, emerged from the driveway, dragging a suitcase toward the entrance. He was still wearing a tailored navy suit, but his tie was slightly loose. The scent of expensive cologne, tobacco, and the exhaustion of a long day floated ahead of him, mixing with the clean aroma of the orchids I had cared for with my own hands for 10 years. After a decade of marriage, I had become so accustomed to his smell that sometimes I barely noticed it, just like our marriage. He stepped onto the veranda and glanced at me. His gaze brushed past my face and landed on the suitcase as if I were part of the furniture. "I am leaving," Kendall said. "This business trip is critical. Some foreign partners are here, and they need a geological survey of the land for a new resort out in the Hamptons. We are launching a major project." His voice was flat, nearly emotionless. It sounded less like a goodbye and more like a weather report. I nodded and stepped closer, pretending to smooth his collar. "Why so sudden?" 15 days is a long time, Kendall." He instinctively pulled back half an inch. It was barely noticeable, but to me it felt like a slap. "This project is top secret, Ayana," he said. "You understand? I need to investigate thoroughly, and the information cannot leak." He took my hand, but his palm was cooler than usual. "For security reasons, do not call or text me for the next 15 days. I will have my phone off so I can focus. I will call you when the work is done. I am leaving the house and the garden in your hands." I gave him the practiced smile I had worn for 10 years, the smile of a patient, understanding wife. "Of course. Do what you need to do. I will be fine here, so be at ease on your business trip." The suitcase wheels rumbled across the tiled floor. A moment later, the iron door slammed shut behind him, and our Buckhead mansion fell into a silence that felt almost hostile. I stood in the middle of the huge living room, looking at my reflection in the large window. 10 years ago, Ayana Ellis, was an ambitious landscape architect with my own brand, Ellis & Cole Designs. I had worked overnight on rooftop gardens and city plazas, my hands stained with ink and soil. Then Kendall said, "I need a solid foundation at home. I cannot build a legacy if you are always out at job sites." So I gave it all up. I stepped away from Ellis & Cole Designs and retreated into this mansion. I designed every corner of the garden, orchids, koi pond, stone paths, pouring all my creativity into our home. I thought I was nurturing a shared dream. Instead, Kendall's coldness grew as the years went by. Dinners together dwindled. His texts became shorter. Affection dried up. He left early and came back late, always because of work. I blamed myself at first. Maybe I was not interesting enough. Maybe all marriages withered over time. I tried to revive things with new recipes, soft music, carefully chosen dresses. I only met his indifference and sometimes his irritation. Eventually, I grew quiet too, and silence became the soundtrack of our house. 3 days after he left for his top-secret trip, the mansion felt cavernous. I hid in my orchid garden for comfort. The Phalaenopsis were in perfect bloom, the dancing ladies swaying lightly, the purple dendrobiums I had ordered from Miami reaching for the sunlight. I was carefully wiping each leaf, watching drops of water slide down the glossy surfaces like tiny beads of glass. My phone, left on the small patio table, chimed. I ignored it, assuming some advertisement. A second chime. Then a third. With a sigh, I pulled off my gloves, wiped my hands on my apron, and picked up the phone. On the screen were 3 identical bank notifications. My heart gave a slow, heavy thump. It was the corporate platinum card in my name, the one I had given Kendall to use for work. I opened the first alert. $4,500. Payment at Seville's Table Restaurant. Seville's Table. The name hit me like a needle. I quickly checked the time. The transaction had gone through 10 minutes earlier. My fingers shook as I called the bank's preferred client line. After confirming my identity, the representative said, "Yes, Mrs. Ellis. A payment of $4,500 at Seville's Table Restaurant in Buckhead, Atlanta, was approved a few minutes ago." Buckhead, Atlanta, not the Hamptons. The orchids around me suddenly smelled cloying and wrong. 6 months earlier, for our 10th anniversary, I had shown Kendall an article about Seville's Table. I had said, "Look at this place, Kendall. They say the view of the city is amazing. Could we go there for our anniversary dinner? He never even looked away from his laptop. Be serious, Ayana. One dinner there costs what I pay an employee in a month. It is a place for people with more money than sense. We can use that money for something useful. It is only once in 10 years, I had tried to say, but he shut the conversation down with a wave of his hand and a lecture about practicality and waste. We ended up eating at home, like any ordinary evening. I told myself he was right, that he was driven and disciplined, not frivolous. And now, today, that same man, who was supposedly inspecting land in the Hamptons, who had told me not to call him at all, was at Seville's table in Buckhead, paying a bill of $4,500. He had not answered my messages for 3 days, claiming he would be offline. Yet here he was, in the same city as our house, dining like a king. The first wave of shock passed and left me strangely calm. I did not scream. I did not throw my phone. Instead, I walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of ice water, and drank slowly until my throat stopped burning. Then I scrolled through my contacts. I could not tell my mother. Her heart was weak, and she would crumble. I needed someone with a cool head and a sharp brain. My eyes stopped on Tanya Brooks, attorney at law. Tanya had been my best friend since our days at Spelman College. While I had given up my firm to be the supportive wife, she had built a reputation as a relentless, brilliant lawyer who had no tolerance for hypocrisy. If anyone could help me, it was Tanya. I called. She picked up after 2 rings. What is going on, Ayana? Tanya asked. Her usual teasing tone was gone the moment she heard my voice. You sound off. What did Kendall do? He told me he would be in the Hamptons for 15 days, I said, forcing my voice to stay level. No calls, no texts. Top secret project. But 15 minutes ago, his card paid $4,500 at Seville's table in Buckhead. There was a stretch of silence. I could almost hear her mind turning. That is the same restaurant you wanted for your anniversary, Tanya said finally. The one he called extravagant. Yes. My throat tightened. That man, she muttered. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to send someone there? No, I said sharply. I did not want a scene. I wanted the truth. You are a lawyer. Use your methods. Find out who he is entertaining there. That restaurant has reservations, cameras, something. Send me the card's last 4 digits, your account number, and a clear photo of Kendall, Tanya said. I will make a few calls. And Ayana? Yes. Hold it together. Do not fall apart before we know everything. I promised I would not. After I hung up, I sat on the veranda as darkness crept across the garden. The orchids glowed faintly in the fading light. They were still perfect, but they suddenly felt fragile and false, like decorations in a staged home. I did not eat dinner. The only sound in the huge house was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the living room. Time marched forward while my life seemed frozen. Around 10 o'clock, my phone vibrated. Tanya had sent me a short message. Sit down before you open this. Breathe. My hands shook as I clicked on the video she attached. 30 seconds. That was all it took to crush 10 years of marriage. Kendall sat in the soft, golden light of Seville's table, jacket off, shirt open at the collar, looking relaxed in a way he had not looked with me in years. Across from him sat a young woman with long, light brown hair and loose curls, wearing a wine-colored silk slip dress. I recognized her immediately. Kiera Simmons, the new intern from Kendall's department. I had met Kiera 3 months earlier when I took Kendall lunch at his office. He had barely introduced her. That is Kiera, an intern. She had smiled and said, Hello, Mrs. Ellis. Your husband brags about your cooking all the time. I hope to be like you one day, taking such good care of home. In the video, Kendall picked up a piece of lobster with a silver fork and placed it gently on her plate. He smiled at her with an unguarded warmth I had not seen in 5 years. Kiera leaned forward laughing, reached out, and used her fingertip to wipe a bit of sauce from the corner of his mouth. It was an intimate, practiced gesture. Kendall did not pull away. He caught her hand, lifted it to his lips, and kissed the back of it gently. The video ended. My phone slipped from my fingers and hit the tile with a dull crack. I stared at the black screen, but those 30 seconds kept playing in my mind. He was not entertaining a client. He was not suffering far away for the good of our future. He was using my card to throw a luxury dinner for a woman half my age. The pain in my chest was sharp, but my eyes stayed dry. Maybe my tears had burned out long ago. I picked up the phone when it buzzed again. Tanya was calling. Did you watch it? Tanya asked. Her voice shook with anger. Yes. That is Kiera, she said, spitting out the name. I knew I recognized her. What are you going to do? Are you going to confront him? No, I said. My voice sounded flat, even to me. Not yet. First, I need you as my lawyer, not just as my friend. We're going to talk about money. The next morning, I walked straight to the hidden drawer where we kept important documents and bank books. My hands were steady. Tanya, we need to freeze all our joint accounts, I told her when I arrived at her office. Checking, investments, savings, everything. I want them frozen before he can touch another dollar. If we freeze them, he will know something is wrong, Tanya warned. He will call you the moment a transaction fails. He will call, I agreed. But by then it will be too late for him to move anything. To freeze joint accounts, we need a legitimate reason, Tanya explained. We can do it as part of a divorce filing, but once we file, everything becomes official. Not yet, I said. If we file now, I give him exactly what he wants, freedom. I want to stop him first. I took a breath, remembering the phrases she had once taught me as a joke. If I report to the bank that I have reason to believe my husband is using joint assets for fraud or illegal purposes, do they have grounds for an emergency freeze? Tanya looked at me, then nodded slowly. Yes, the bank will act to protect itself and its clients. It will be messy. It will cause a scandal. I need the scandal, I said. He has been counting on me being quiet for 10 years. That ends today. That night, close to 11, I called Mr. Sterling, the Director of Preferred Customer Services at Executive Trust Bank. He recognized my name immediately. Good evening, Mrs. Ellis, he said. Is everything all right? No, I answered. I need 2 urgent actions. First, cancel the auxiliary platinum card ending in. I read out the numbers I knew by heart. There was a tense pause. Mrs. Ellis, that is a maximum limit card. Mr. Kendall is currently on a business trip, is he not? He may need. I am the primary card holder, I interrupted. Cancel it now. Yes, ma'am, he said quickly. I will block the card immediately. And the second matter? I need you to apply an emergency freeze to all our joint accounts. I read off the details of our checking account, our joint stock portfolio, and the $60,000 joint deposit account. This time, Mr. Sterling did not respond right away. May I ask the reason? He said finally, his voice low. We require a statement. I, the principal owner of the majority of the assets, I said, repeating the words Tanya had given me, have sufficient reason to suspect that my husband, Kendall Thorne, is using our joint assets for illegal purposes and is showing signs of fraudulent disposition of property. On the other end, I heard him inhale sharply. Mrs. Ellis, these are serious allegations. In accordance with our regulations, I will proceed with a temporary block on all transactions. Please come to the main branch at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning to sign the official documentation. I will be there, I said. Do not let a single dollar move until then. When I hung up, the silence that followed felt different. It was no longer the silence of being ignored. It was the silence before a storm. The storm arrived faster than I anticipated. The next evening, after Tanya confirmed the accounts were frozen and the card was dead, I was sitting on the steps beside the koi pond, watching the bright fish drift through the water. My phone vibrated on the stone table. Beloved husband flashed on the screen, the name I had programmed years ago and never changed. I let it ring. Again. I counted. 1 call. 2. 10. 20. By the time I finished reviewing house sale estimates with Curtis, the real estate agent Tanya had recommended, my phone showed 66 missed calls. Curtis glanced at it. You sure you do not want to answer? He asked politely. It might be urgent. It is just another sales call, I said with a small smile. I get them all the time. After Curtis left, I set the phone on the kitchen counter and finally checked the screen. 66 missed calls from Kendall. 1 new voicemail. I pressed play and leaned against the counter. Ayana, have you lost your mind? Kendall roared. His voice was raw. How dare you cancel my card without telling me? Do you have any idea what you just did? I am entertaining an important client, and my card got declined in front of everyone. Are you trying to humiliate me? He paused, breathing hard. Reactivate that card and put money back in the accounts. Do it now. Stop this nonsense and answer the phone. The message ended with a hard click. I listened again. Once. Twice. There was no trace of concern for me. No apology. Only panic over money and embarrassment. That was all our 10 years meant to him, credit limits and access. I saved the voicemail and opened WhatsApp. I deleted the picture of us smiling on our 5th anniversary and replaced it with a photo of myself standing alone beside a blooming dendrobium. I called him. He answered almost before the first ring finished. "Ayana, what?" he started. "Yes," I said calmly. My composure seemed to throw him off. "What are you doing? Why did you cut off the card? Is this some kind of joke?" "I am not playing," I replied. I walked onto the veranda and looked over the garden that had been my entire world. "I am doing what an adult should have done a long time ago." "Ayana, this is not the time for one of your moods," he snapped. "I am stuck out here working." "How interesting," I said lightly. "Tell me, Kendall, how did your ultra-secret geological survey in the Hamptons manage to teleport you to Seville's table in Buckhead?" There was a sharp silence. I could almost hear him recalculating. "What are you talking about?" he asked slowly. "Who told you that?" "Perhaps your associate did," I said. "The young one in the wine-colored dress. The one you fed lobster to with my card." "You were spying on me?" he demanded. "You followed me there?" "I do not care where you took her," I said. "Entertain whoever you wish. I simply wanted to inform you of something." "What?" he asked, suddenly wary. "I put the Buckhead mansion on the market," I said. "Curtis called today. We already have serious buyers lined up. We will probably sign an earnest money contract this weekend." He exploded. "Are you crazy? That is my house. You cannot sell it without my consent." "You also did not have my consent to spend our money on your intern," I replied. "I froze the accounts. I canceled your platinum card. And the house will be sold soon. I hope your survey trip has been enjoyable, Kendall. Now you can figure out how to get back to Atlanta without my help." Before he could unleash the rest of his rage, I hung up. I knew what would come next. Kendall always ran for reinforcements when things did not go his way. And his strongest reinforcement had always been his mother, Miss Gloria. It took less than an hour. My phone lit up, Mother. I answered and held the phone away from my ear as wailing flooded through the speaker. "Ayana, how could you do this to my son?" Gloria cried. "He called me from out of state with nothing. You froze everything. Are you trying to ruin him? That child works himself to the bone for this family, and this is how you repay him." I listened in silence until she abruptly stopped crying and switched to a sharper tone. "You have gone too far," she said. "Marriage is about patience. Men slip. That is how they are. You cannot destroy your home over a little temptation. If you sell that house, where will the grandchildren grow up?" "Mother," I said quietly, "are you calling $4,500 of my money spent on dinner for his intern a little temptation?" The phone went silent. I knew Kendall had not told her the details. Her crying came back thinner, shakier. "I know you are hurt, Ayana, but you must think of the family name. Close the door and resolve it privately. A woman needs patience more than she needs pride." "I have been patient for 10 years, I said, feeling something harden inside me. "I will not fund his affairs. I am done being the quiet, reasonable one." When she threatened to come to the house and straighten me out, I ended the call. After that, the calls started. His cousin Charisse. His friend Leon. The neighbor who was worried about the marriage. Everyone had advice. Everyone thought they knew what I should tolerate. "Men get tempted," Charisse said gently. "But if you cause a scandal, people will talk about all of us. Think about the family's reputation." "I have been thinking about this family's reputation for 10 years, I answered before hanging up. "Ayana, I am not taking sides," Leon said on his turn. "But you cutting off every dollar is extreme. How is he supposed to work? If he breaks down out there, that could come back on you." No one worried about my breakdown when I gave up my career, I said, and ended that call as well. Finally, I turned my phone off, walked into the small study I had nearly abandoned, and turned on the old computer. My office smelled faintly of dust and ink. Architectural books lined the shelves, their spines untouched. On the wall hung an old 3D rendering from Ellis and Cole Designs, my very first rooftop garden project. I opened my design software, hands trembling slightly, and began a new sketch, a rooftop garden full of orchids, a small koi pond, and wide benches facing the sky. When I finished, I took a screenshot and posted it on WhatsApp with a single sentence. "First sketch for a new life. Ellis and Cole Designs is back." Then I turned my phone back on. The messages and lectures stopped almost instantly as the news spread. For the first time in a long while, I felt something like myself. That night, when the house was quiet, a new kind of curiosity nagged at me. I had cut off Kendall's access to money, but I still did not know the full extent of what he had done. So I went into his study, a room he had always insisted was private. The smell of tobacco and old paper hit me. His mahogany desk was perfectly organized, like a showroom. I opened the top drawer. Locked. He always hid the key in the same place, beneath the money plant in the corner. He had never believed I would look. Inside the drawer were neat stacks of folders, contracts, insurance policies, and bank statements from accounts I had never heard of. I sat on the floor and spread them out, scanning line after line. My heartbeat slowed as the truth emerged. His official salary was 5 times higher than the amount he had claimed. There were large representation expenses nearly every week. Luxury hotels, restaurants, trips. And then my eyes stopped on a pattern of regular transfers. Internal transfer. Beneficiary, Ms. Odessa Simmons. Amount, $2,500. The same amount he deposited into our household account each month for me to pay bills, groceries, and garden maintenance. The transfers appeared every month, like clockwork, for 2 years. I grabbed a calculator and did the math with shaking fingers. 2,500 times 24. $72,000. Who are you, Odessa? I whispered into the empty room. I did not recognize the name. She was not family, not a friend I knew of. No one regularly transfers $2,500 to a stranger for 2 years. That was not kindness, that was support. I captured screenshots of every transaction and sent them to Tanya with one text. Find out who Odessa Simmons is and what Kendall bought with my $72,000. Who are you, Odessa? I whispered into the empty room. I did not recognize the name. She was not family, not a friend I knew of. No one regularly transfers $2,500 to a stranger for 2 years. That was not kindness, that was support. I captured screenshots of every transaction and sent them to Tanya with one text. Find out who Odessa Simmons is and what Kendall bought with my $72,000. At 6 a.m, while my hair was still wrapped in a towel, my phone rang. Tanya did not bother with greetings. Are you sitting or standing? She asked. Standing, I said. Tell me. Sit down, Tanya ordered. Odessa is 60 years old. Lives in a small neighborhood outside Jacksonville. No steady job. And Ayana, she hesitated. She is Kiara's mother. My phone slipped from my hand, landing on the rug without a sound. I stared at the wall. $72,000. To the mother of his intern. 2 years of secret support. Tanya's voice came faintly from the floor. Do you understand what that means? He has been supporting not just his mistress, but her family, with your money. I picked up the phone. My voice felt strangely calm. I understand. He has not been my husband for a long time. He has been a thief. Ayana, listen, Tanya said. With this, we can not only file for divorce, but for fraud and dissipation of marital assets. In court, this is powerful. I do not just want a divorce, I said. I want him to pay for every year he took from me. Principal and interest. Later that morning, I sat in Tanya's office, dressed in the white suit I had worn the day I defended my first big design contract years ago. Tanya slid a folder across the desk. If you sign, we officially move forward. With the $72,000 and the restaurant video, you will likely secure the majority of the assets. Just as my hand closed around the pen, Tanya frowned at her screen. Wait, what is it? I asked. I had my assistant pull updated records on the Buckhead house, she said slowly. Ayana, come look at this. On the screen was the deed to our mansion. At the bottom, in small print, was a note. Property mortgaged, $650,000. That is not possible, I whispered. I never signed anything to mortgage this house. This house was bought mostly with my parents' money. Look at the date, Tanya said. 6 months ago. 6 months. My mind flew back. Kendall in the kitchen, eyes shining with excitement. The company has an internal investment opportunity, he had said. Golden. We can double our position. I just need you to sign some internal paperwork as my spouse. My boss is waiting for the forms. You trust me, right? He had brought a thick folder filled with technical language. He had flipped to a page, pointed where I should sign, and kissed my forehead when I did. I had not even skimmed the paragraphs. Tanya's hands curled into fists. Either he tricked you into signing mortgage papers or a power of attorney, or he forged part of your consent. Either way, he used your parents' house as collateral to take $650,000. Where is that money? I asked, my voice barely audible. Based on what we are seeing, Tanya said. He took that money to prepare a new life. Probably with Kiera. You were meant to be left behind with the debt. The room tilted. Selling the house was no longer about revenge. It was survival. We have to close the sale fast, I said. I need the cash to pay off that mortgage before the bank takes the house, and before Kendall can do anything else with it. Tanya nodded. Then we treat this not just as a divorce. This is a criminal matter. Fraud. Embezzlement. We are not just fighting for property. We are fighting to keep you out of debt and out of any legal trouble he drags you into. I left her office and walked to my car like a sleepwalker. The garden greeted me when I got home. My orchids, my pond, my carefully placed stones. The buyers Curtis had found were from Houston, a family relocating and looking for a house with good energy, he had said. They loved the photos and the 3D walkthrough and wanted to pay 90% in cash if we included the orchid garden. When Curtis called again, he sounded almost breathless. They want to offer an additional $30,000 for the garden itself, Mrs. Ellis, he said. They say the house would lose its soul if you took the orchids. They want everything exactly as it is. $30,000. For 10 years of pruning, watering, arranging. For the only thing I had truly owned. Tell them yes, I said quietly. I will leave everything. While I gathered financial paperwork for the sale, a WhatsApp message came from an unknown number, baby Kiera. My first instinct was to block it. Last time she had sent a bikini photo on a yacht off the Florida Keys, with Kendall's reflection visible in her sunglasses. That was before everything exploded. This time, the message contained only 3 words. Mrs. Ellis, help me. I did not reply. Another long message followed. I know you have every reason to hate me, she wrote. But Kendall is not who you think he is. Once the money stopped, he changed. He hit me. He took my phone. He said if I did not find a way to get him money, he would sell me out. I escaped to the airport. I have nothing. I just want to go home. I stared at the screen. I felt no sympathy. She had willingly taken money from a married man for 2 years while his wife stayed home, believing in him. Then her next message arrived. I know how he got rich. I have copies of double contracts, tax documents. He always said if anyone ever saw them, he would go to prison. If you help me get back safely and forgive the money he gave my mother, I will give you everything. The enemy of my enemy is not my friend, I thought. But she could be a useful witness. What airport are you at? I typed. Still in Florida, at the airport near Key West, she replied quickly. I can get to Atlanta if I can at least get online and figure out a way. I do not care where you are right now, I wrote back. I do not care if he hit you. That is between the two of you. I care about the evidence. Bring every document you have to my lawyer's office. Monday, 3 o'clock, Brooks Law Group, 32 Peachtree Street. Come alone. I will be there, she answered. Please do not change your mind, Mrs. Ellis. Monday morning, Tanya's office felt charged. I wore a black suit this time, the color of endings. Tanya sat on one side of the conference table, calm and alert. On the other side sat a man in a dark gray suit, Mr. Hayes, the attorney representing J Capital Investment Fund, one of the firms Kendall had worked closely with. 5 minutes late, the door opened. Kendall walked in. He looked nothing like the immaculate director he had always been. His beard had grown in uneven patches, his hair was greasy, and his suit was wrinkled. He smelled faintly of stale sweat and stress. When his eyes landed on me, something flickered across his face. Relief, then anger when he saw Tanya, then real fear when he noticed Mr. Hayes. Ayana, baby, he said, stepping toward me. We do not need all this. Let us go home and talk. Sit down, Mr. Thorne, Tanya said. Her tone was pure steel. She pointed to the chair in the center of the table, facing the screen on the wall. It looked like a seat reserved for someone about to be judged. He hesitated, then Saturday, we are not here to talk about 10 years of affection, Tanya began. We are here to talk about numbers and documents. She clicked the remote. The big screen lit up with the 30-second video from Seville's table. Kendall flinched when he saw himself kissing Kiera's hand. He opened his mouth, but Tanya cut him off. That is just context, she said coolly. Next, the bikini yacht photo appeared. Then slides of the bank statements. Each transfer to Odessa Simmons was highlighted in red. At the bottom, the total, $72,000. Color drained from Kendall's face. This is out of context, he began. I was just helping someone, next, Tanya said. The mortgage documents for the Buckhead house filled the screen, the $650,000 loan amount enlarged. Beside it, a forensic analysis of my signature. The conclusion is that Mrs. Ellis signed under misrepresentation or that portions were altered after signing, Tanya said. Either way, she did not knowingly approve this mortgage. Kendall finally snapped. You signed it yourself, he yelled, looking at me. You knew it was an investment opportunity. I met his eyes for the first time. You told me it was an internal guarantee document, I said quietly. You rushed me and said your boss was waiting. You did not mention $650,000. The last slide showed the double contracts, courtesy of Kiera, the altered numbers, the side agreements, and the tax records that did not match what had been declared. Kendall sagged in his chair. Sweat rolled down his temple. For the first time since I had known him, he looked small. Mr. Hayes cleared his throat. Mr. Thorne, he said calmly, I represent J Capital Investment Fund. We have confirmed that you manipulated contractual amounts, misreported figures, and diverted funds. We will be filing charges of commercial fraud and embezzlement. Kendall turned to me, desperation flooding his face. Ayana, say something, he begged. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. I did it for us. 10 years, Ayana. 10 years. You cannot do this to me. I looked at him and felt nothing. No love, no hate, only a tired emptiness. You did not do this for us, I said. You did it for yourself. The person you need to talk to is not me. At that moment, the door opened again. 2 uniformed officers and 2 detectives in plain clothes stepped into the room. Good afternoon, Mr. Thorne, one of the detectives said, showing his badge. We are with the Economic Crimes Unit. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. Please stand and place your hands behind your back. Kendall stared at them, then at me. The pleading look vanished, replaced by raw hatred. You will regret this, he hissed as the cuffs clicked around his wrists. I watched him walk out between the officers. 10 years of my life ended not with a fight, not with tears, but with the dry clack of handcuffs and the sound of his footsteps growing faint in the hallway. 6 months later, Tanya called with the final update. It is done, she said. He received 18 years. Fraud for the $650,000 he took using your house, fraud against J Capital, and large-scale tax evasion. I closed my eyes. 18 years. An entire era of his life, traded for greed. Word spread that Gloria had suffered a stroke after the verdict. Old neighbors said she now lay in bed, crying and cursing anyone who would listen. I felt no triumph. Just a quiet distance, as if I were hearing about strangers. Kiera, after turning over evidence and returning the full $72,000 her mother had received a suspended sentence for her part. She disappeared from Atlanta afterward, reportedly moving back to Jacksonville to start over. By then, I had no anger left for her either. Everyone had paid their share of the price. As for me, I stood in the middle of my new office, a small but bright loft in a renovated building downtown. The sign by the door read, Ellis & Cole Designs in clean, bold letters. Blueprints lined the walls, colorful renderings pinned alongside photos of completed gardens and rooftop retreats. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, lighting up rolls of paper and trays of drafting tools. Tanya walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee. You look like you are planning to redesign the whole city, she said, handing me one. Why so serious? Did we just land the landscape contract for that whole new development across the river? Not yet, I said, smiling faintly. I am deciding what to plant around the central lake. Phalaenopsis orchids or dendrobiums. Tanya laughed. Orchids again. You let go of a $30,000 orchid garden, and you still cannot stay away from them. I did not lose that garden, I said, turning to look out the window at the busy street below. I sold it so I could buy back my life. I took a slow sip of coffee. It tasted warm and slightly bitter, but clean. No secrets, no hidden costs. Just coffee. For 10 years, I had learned how to nurture delicate roots and coax blooms out of stubborn stems. I had learned how to keep something alive, even when the environment was not ideal. Now, I would use that same patience on myself. On my future. Outside, people hurried down the sidewalk, carrying their own worries, their own quiet stories. Inside, paper rustled softly on my drafting table. The air smelled of ink, soil samples in small glass jars, and the promise of something new. My orchids were gone from the Buckhead mansion, but I did not miss them. I had something better now. A key. A sign on a door with my name on it. Freedom. I set down my coffee, rolled out a fresh sheet of paper, and began sketching a new garden. This one for a community park near the river, full of wide paths, bright flowers, and quiet benches under tall trees. My hand moved steadily. My heart was light. The house was sold, the debt cleared, the past sealed in court records and fading memories. The life I should have been living all along was finally here. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.